declaring your inflatable pool a hydrotherapy spa for a tax break, faking an entire wedding just for the cash gifts. These aren't storylines from a terrible comedy. They are real, documented attempts by Americans to cheat the system. We've gathered 49 of the most brazen, creative, and hilariously doomed schemes ever conceived. This isn't a list of master criminals. It's a tribute to glorious, misguided audacity. 1. In the hallowed halls of tax evasion, some schemes are clumsy, while others are works of art. A man in Washington facing a hefty property tax bill for his wine cellar simply declared it a grape-aging laboratory. His justification was pure poetry, arguing that the delicate aging process required constant, rigorous monitoring, which of course included regular tastings. He wasn't getting tipsy, he was a dedicated scientist pushing the boundaries of fermentation. The beautiful lie evaporated when investigators arrived. They came expecting lab coats and complex machinery, but instead found a scene that screamed suburban book club, complete with cheese platters and far more reedal stems than scientific instruments. His research, it turned out, was less about chemistry and more about a robust Chardonnay. 2. Up in Alaska, where the wilderness is vast and the subsidies are tempting, one woman decided to launch a dog sledding enterprise. It was a classic frontier business model, except for one critical component. Her sled dogs were two huskies whose life experience involved sleeping on velvet pillows and contemplating the existential dread of an empty food bowl. These were not hardened beasts of burden. They were glorified lapdogs masquerading as a workforce. One can only imagine the federal agent showing up, picturing a team of powerful canines, only to find two very confused fluffballs who believed mush was something you did to their dinner, not a command to run across a frozen wasteland. 3. Proving that romance is dead and fraud is very much alive, a Texas couple staged an entire wedding for the sole purpose of harvesting cash gifts. This wasn't just a little white lie, it was a full-blown theatrical production. They rented a hall, hired actors to play weeping relatives, and orchestrated a fake bouquet toss. It was a masterclass in social engineering until one guest, a true vigilante of matrimonial truth, felt that something was off. A quick check of public records revealed the shocking truth. There was no marriage license. The entire event was just an elaborate, poorly catered ATM, and the guests were the ones making the withdrawals. 4. When faced with a luxury tax on his yacht, a California man chose the path of pure, unadulterated audacity. He legally registered his floating party palace as a rescue vessel. To sell the story, he even adorned it with a purely ornamental lifeboat and life jackets emblazoned with official rescue craft, likely positioned right next to the champagne cooler. The IRS, a group not known for their love of maritime theatrics, became suspicious when this vital rescue boat was repeatedly spotted hosting raging parties with a live DJ. Apparently, the only lives being saved were those perishing from a lack of mojitos. 5. A woman in Maine looked at the rickety treehouse in her backyard and didn't see a death trap. She saw a luxury eco-hotel. She marketed it as a minimalist experience for a premium price, which is a brilliant way to say there is no toilet and a squirrel might be your roommate. The grand illusion of five-star arboreal living came crashing down, quite literally, during a storm. The wreckage revealed that this eco-paradise was constructed not with sustainable bamboo, but with scrap plywood, wishful thinking, and an alarming quantity of duct tape. The minimalism, it turned out, applied mostly to the structural integrity. 6. In Texas, a couple transformed their garage clutter into high art, or so they claimed. They took random junk, an old lawnmower, a rusty rake, a broken toaster, spray-painted them silver, and launched an abstract minimalism exhibit. It was a poignant commentary on the fact that people will believe anything. The ruse held until a visitor, who presumably had a lawn of their own, looked past the pretentious title card and realized the centerpiece of the collection was the exact same model of weed whacker they had at home. The gallery closed shortly thereafter, its artistic statement made painfully clear. 7. A Colorado couple decided they wanted the tax benefits of running a daycare without the inconvenient presence of actual children. They meticulously staged their home, buying toys, hanging up childish artwork, and creating a perfect, cheerful, and utterly silent play area. It was a daycare frozen in time, a shrine to kids who never existed. The scheme was so bizarre it might have worked if not for the internet. When auditors did a cursory Google search, they discovered the business was indeed listed. The category, however, wasn't childcare. It was listed, for reasons that defy all logic, as adults only. 8. To secure a massive agricultural tax break, a Georgia man launched a therapy goat retreat, an idyllic haven for spiritual healing through communion with farm animals. There was, however, a slight logistical issue. He didn't own any goats. His solution was to populate his fields with a herd of life-sized cardboard cutouts and play barnyard sounds on a loop. The county inspector, bless his heart, was initially fooled. But his suspicion grew over the next 6 months as he drove by and noticed that the goats were not only incredibly well-behaved, but had also achieved a level of stillness previously unknown to biological life. 9. In the sun-drenched paradise of Florida, where appearances are everything, a yacht owner concocted a scheme of such breathtaking audacity it almost deserved to work. To sidestep exorbitant docking fees, he rebranded his magnificent vessel as a floating library. One can picture the scene, inspectors stepping aboard, expecting dusty tomes and the gentle shushing of a librarian, perhaps even a children's story hour on the Lido deck. What they found instead was a floating testament to happy hour. There were no leather-bound classics, only beer-soaked paperbacks. The only Dewey Decimal System was a ranking of the best tequilas on board. The yacht was less a public service and more a private party that had simply run out of excuses. 10. An Illinois man gazing upon his property tax bill found religion. Or rather, he found a loophole that looked a lot like religion. He declared his suburban home a church, a holy sanctuary dedicated to… well, that part was a bit fuzzy. He planted a single cross in the living room, a valiant but lonely symbol of his newfound piety. Every Sunday, he held services where the Holy Sacrament was pepperoni pizza and the communion wine was a 6-pack of Miller Lite. The divine plan hit a very earthly snag when investigators discovered his sacred temple was simultaneously listed on Airbnb. Turns out, you could rent out this house of worship for a weekend of sin, provided you checked out before the Sunday service. 11. Tapping into the lucrative market of things that go bump in the night, a Tennessee woman reinvented herself as a paranormal investigator, offering spiritual cleansing services. Her ghost hunting arsenal was less Ghostbusters and more Spirit Halloween clearance sale, consisting primarily of a flashlight and a portable fog machine. She'd put on a grand show, sweeping through houses while dramatically spritzing atmospheric mist. Her career in exorcism ended when a skeptical homeowner located the source of the chilling, otherworldly moans. It wasn't a tormented spirit from beyond the grave. It was a tiny Bluetooth speaker hidden in a sock drawer, its battery running low. 12. A man in Montana looked at his dog, a creature whose primary concerns were squirrels and naps, and saw a prophet. He officially declared his golden retriever a spiritual guide and proceeded to write off every conceivable pet expense as a religious donation. The kibble was a sacred offering to the canine guru. The squeaky toys were holy relics. Trips to the vet were pilgrimages to maintain the health of the spiritual leader. In a rare moment of bureaucratic humor, the IRS, while ultimately denying the claim, reportedly confessed that it was one of the most creative attempts they'd ever seen. The dog, unaware of his deification, continued his spiritual practice of chasing his own tail. 13. A Florida couple, true pioneers in the field of bureaucratic manipulation, got legally divorced while continuing to live together, a strategic move to double-dip on government housing benefits. To maintain the illusion of separation, they committed to the bit with alarming dedication, even going on dates with other people. It was a complex web of lies held together by a shared mortgage. The scheme finally unraveled when a sharp-eyed neighbor, a suburban detective in the making, noticed they were still discreetly exchanging anniversary gifts. It seems their commitment to fraud was strong, but their commitment to sentimental tradition was their ultimate downfall. 14. Faced with property taxes, a man in Washington, D.C. declared his cluttered garage a historical film archive, a noble institution preserving the cinematic heritage of our time. When inspectors arrived to survey this vital cultural repository, they weren't greeted by canisters of silent films or rare celluloid treasures. The archive was a precarious tower of dusty VHS tapes. The crown jewels of the collection? A thrice-watched copy of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, and a recording of Jaws 2 taped off a Sunday afternoon broadcast, commercials and all. It was less a film archive and more a sad monument to a broken VCR. 15. A New Yorker with a spare bedroom and a dream of tax deductions registered her tiny space as a micro-movie theater. This brilliant move was designed to write off her entire home entertainment setup. The Netflix subscription, the giant TV, even the gourmet popcorn machine. The curtains fell on her cinematic empire when she made the fatal error of trying to look legitimate. She posted a flyer with her business hours, which boldly stated, "Open by appointment only, for friends and family, and only on weekends if I'm not busy." The IRS, it turns out, requires your business to be open to, actual customers. 16. In Kentucky, a farmer with more corn than customers decided to elevate his seasonal maize from a simple pastime to a profound spiritual journey. He rebranded it as a mindfulness labyrinth, charging a hefty entrance fee for the promise of inner peace and self-discovery. The scam was exposed when a local reporter, likely expecting a deeply moving experience, visited for a feature story. Her published review was brutal. She reported that the labyrinth had no discernible path, no spiritual ambiance, and that the only profound discovery she made was that she had paid $30 to get lost in a cornfield. 17. In a bold stroke of identity theft against fame itself, a Minnesota woman legally changed her name to match a popular celebrity. Her new driver's license became a golden ticket, granting her free entry to concerts, VIP lounges, and exclusive after-parties. She sailed past bouncers and velvet ropes with the unearned confidence of the truly famous. Her reign as a B-list freeloader came to a spectacular end when she waltzed into a high-profile event, only to come face-to-face with the actual celebrity whose identity she had borrowed. The resulting standoff was surely a moment of sublime, cringe-inducing awkwardness for everyone involved. 18. A hot dog vendor in Montana, aspiring to a higher culinary tax bracket, declared his humble street cart a gourmet fusion restaurant. The term fusion, in the culinary world, evokes images of bold flavor pairings and innovative techniques. His interpretation was slightly more modest. The singular fusion item on his menu was a hot dog that could be topped with both ketchup and mustard. This revolutionary marriage of two classic condiments was, in his eyes, the pinnacle of gastronomic artistry. The taxman, however, remained thoroughly unimpressed with his so-called gourmet vision. 19. To avoid constant fines for his massive, neighborhood-disrupting parties, a California man cleverly designated his backyard BBQ pit as an outdoor culinary school. The constant stream of people and loud music were simply students and practical application seminars. His brilliant excuse imploded when a genuinely enthusiastic foodie, hearing rumors of this vibrant new school, showed up one morning and earnestly asked to enroll in a class on advanced grilling techniques. The dean of this fine institution, who had only ever mastered the art of burning hot dogs, was forced to admit the entire school was a fraud. 20. In a bold attempt to merge fitness with finance, a Texas couple declared their backyard trampoline a vertical motion wellness device. They argued with a straight face that these daily bouncing sessions were essential for their mental and physical health, a vital tool for stress relief. This wasn't just a toy, it was a therapeutic apparatus. The IRS, presumably intrigued by this new frontier in holistic accounting, sent inspectors. They didn't find a grueling workout in progress. Instead, they found the couple lounging beside the device, enjoying pizza and soda. It turned out the trampoline's primary wellness benefit was providing a convenient, bouncy surface to sit on while digesting greasy food. 21. A man in Nevada decided to skip the luck part of the lottery and go straight to the winning. He meticulously forged a fake ticket for $50,000. But instead of braving the official lottery office, he took his masterpiece to a local convenience store, feeding the clerk a sob story about the state office being too busy to handle his massive win. The plan almost worked until the store owner took a closer look at the ticket's barcode. It wasn't just fake, it was a comically bad photocopy, blurry, slightly crooked, and looking less like a scannable code and more like abstract art. 22. A couple in Illinois sent out lavish invitations for a charity gala, promising a night of elegance and philanthropy to raise funds for local schools. Guests arrived in their finest attire, checkbooks in hand, ready to support a noble cause. What they found, however, was not a fundraiser. It was the couple's private anniversary party, complete with a wild conga line, a Jell-O mold, and a giant, terrifyingly accurate cake shaped like the host's own faces. The only charity being supported that night was the couple's desire for a party funded by their friends' good intentions. 23. One Texas woman took the concept of being two-faced to a whole new level by faking an entire twin sister to double dip on unemployment benefits. This wasn't a simple disguise. She had a full-blown second identity, complete with different wigs, a separate wardrobe, and unique bank accounts. The elaborate con ran smoothly for months, a testament to her acting skills. The entire performance came to a screeching halt when, by a 1 in a million chance, both sisters were scheduled for job interviews on the same day at the same office. The pressure was too much, and mid-interview, her wig slipped, literally and figuratively. 24. In a plot straight out of a bad movie, a Texas business owner convicted of fraud hired his identical twin brother to serve the jail time for him. The plan was deceptively simple. The innocent twin would swap places with the guilty one during visitation hours, banking on the guards being unable to tell them apart. The scheme worked for a while, a perfect illusion of criminal genius. It all fell apart when the brothers, during one of the swaps, got into a loud, heated argument in front of the warden about which one of them had actually committed the original crime in the first place. 25. A high school student in Illinois launched a lucrative tutoring business, charging wealthy parents staggering rates for his guaranteed results. His proprietary teaching method was a closely guarded secret. That secret was simply giving the students the answer keys before every test. Grades skyrocketed overnight, and parents hailed him as a miracle worker. The school administration, however, became suspicious when an entire class of previously C- students suddenly developed photographic memories, yet none could explain the basic principles behind their perfect answers. 26. A woman in Michigan with a taste for the finer things and an allergy to paying for them decided to pose as a professional chef. Armed with a confident attitude and a fake culinary award she likely printed at home, she bluffed her way into exclusive food festivals and industry events, gorging on free gourmet meals. Her cover was blown at a private tasting when a real chef, impressed by her credentials, challenged her to whip up a simple dish on the spot. Panicked, she went into the kitchen and shamefully produced a bowl of microwaved instant ramen. 27. A man in Louisiana, in a moment of pure tax season brilliance, listed his pet boa constrictor as a dependent on his tax return. He didn't stop there. He also claimed a salary deduction for the snake, classifying it as a security guard. His reasoning, laid out in a detailed letter to the IRS, was that the snake actively protected the property by being large, intimidating, and, well, a snake. While the IRS ultimately rejected his claim, one has to admire the sheer audacity. They may not have given him the deduction, but they should have given him an award for creativity. 28. In a move that will resonate with nerds everywhere, A man in Georgia attempted to write off his entire action figure collection as historical artifacts. He argued that these plastic figures were not toys, but important cultural relics chronicling the myths and legends of the late 20th century. The IRS was skeptical from the start, but their suspicions were confirmed when they noted that over half of his priceless artifacts were still in their original 1990s packaging, complete with price tags from Toys R Us. 29. A man in Ohio, desperate for a paid vacation, faked his own death on social media to collect bereavement leave from his job and sympathy cash from a GoFundMe. The elaborate post, written by a grieving cousin, detailed his tragic sudden passing. His plan was flawless until his own boss, scrolling through Instagram a few days later, saw him in the background of a mutual friend's vacation photo from Mexico, very much alive and holding a giant margarita. The boss's only comment on the photo was, "Glad to see the afterlife has a 2-for-1 happy hour. You're fired." 30. A man in North Carolina discovered the ultimate life hack for fine dining. He posed as a food inspector. Armed with a clipboard, a very serious expression, and a cheap meat thermometer, he would march into 5-star restaurants and demand a sampling of their best dishes for inspection purposes. The ruse worked beautifully until he encountered a chef who was also a stickler for rules. When the chef asked him to demonstrate the proper procedure for measuring food temperatures, the fake inspector just stared blankly at his thermometer, his culinary crime spree coming to an abrupt and embarrassing end. 31. A self-employed tech consultant in Oregon built a monster gaming computer, complete with liquid cooling and enough flashing rainbow lights to induce a seizure. On his tax forms, he didn't list it as a gaming PC. He claimed it was a high-performance computational server, essential for complex data analysis, writing off the entire $7,000 cost. The scheme unraveled during a random audit when the IRS agent, seeking proof of its business use, asked to see some of the complex data it had processed. All he could provide were screenshots of his level 60 orc warlock from World of Warcraft. 32. A couple in New York, owners of a 6-figure luxury RV, designated their vehicle a mobile disaster relief shelter to avoid thousands in registration taxes. To add a touch of authenticity, they slapped a Red Cross sticker on the side and kept a few dusty blankets in a cupboard. Their humanitarian facade was shattered when authorities noticed this vital shelter had been parked for 3 consecutive months at a sun-drenched 5-star beachfront resort. The only disaster they were providing relief from was a severe lack of ocean views. 33. A New York landlord decided to raise rent without the pesky expense of actually improving the building. He informed his tenants of a massive rent hike, justified by a series of luxury renovations. As proof, he circulated photos of a stunning, newly renovated lobby with marble floors and modern art. The scam worked until one tech-savvy tenant did a reverse image search and discovered the photo was a stock image from the website of a 5-star hotel in Dubai. The only thing that had been renovated was the landlord's bank account. 34. A couple in Utah devised a plan to collect rental income while avoiding rental property taxes. They simply rented out their house on Airbnb while continuing to claim it as their primary residence. To fool any potential inspectors, they would leave toothbrushes in the bathroom and old clothes in the closets, creating a perfect illusion of occupancy. The lie unraveled when a neighbor, tired of the constant parade of strangers, took a screenshot of the house's Airbnb listing, which proudly advertised available all month, and sent it directly to the city tax office. 35. In a story that beautifully blurs the line between agricultural strategy and a very weird romance, one man attempted to enter into holy matrimony with a cow. This wasn't a metaphor. He held an actual wedding ceremony, complete with guests and a bovine bride dutifully dressed in a white veil. The goal wasn't eternal love, but to exploit a loophole for farming subsidies, assuming the government would recognize his interspecies union. Unfortunately for him, local authorities are not known for their romantic whimsy. They promptly failed to recognize the marriage's validity, fined him for attempting to defraud the system, and left the cow, presumably, to pursue a life as a single, independent female. 36. Some people dream of a better life. A man in Michigan decided to fabricate one, claiming to be the long-lost descendant of a noble European family in order to inherit a massive estate. This wasn't just a casual lie. He created an entire backstory, forging complex ancestry documents and even designing a family crest to prove his blue-blooded lineage. It was a masterpiece of historical fiction, and it almost worked. The scheme unraveled when actual genealogists, the sworn enemies of fantasy, took a look at his evidence. They pointed out that his ancient and noble family crest was, in fact, the sigil for House Targaryen from Game of Thrones. 37. In the theater of insurance fraud, one Arizona woman was giving a Tony-worthy performance as person with a broken leg. For months, she wore a cast, hobbled around on crutches, and posted a digital diary of her slow, painful recovery on social media, all while collecting insurance payouts. Her commitment to the role was impressive. The final act of her play came when she was spotted not just walking, but actively participating in a local fun run, looking healthy and cast-free. The twist? An insurance investigator, just enjoying his day off, happened to be in the crowd, watching the whole miraculous recovery unfold in real time. 38. A woman in California was living the champagne and cucumber water dream, and she hadn't paid a dime for it. She forged a membership card to an ultra-exclusive luxury spa and spent weeks indulging in free massages, saunas, and facials. She became a regular, gliding through the halls with the unearned confidence of a billionaire. Her blissful grift came to a screeching halt when, feeling particularly bold, she treated herself to a $700 diamond dust facial. The problem arose when she tried to charge it to a random membership ID she had memorized, which just so happened to belong to the spa's general manager. 39. In a modern twist on the classic gold rush scam, a man in Colorado secured a massive bank loan by pretending to own a productive gold mine. He would take gullible investors on guided tours of his mine, which in reality was just a damp, rented cave. To complete the illusion, he painstakingly filled it with thousands of rocks he had spray-painted gold. His brilliant, glittering deception was exposed when one banker, who apparently had an eye for geology, decided to take a closer look. He picked up one of the gold nuggets, scraped it with his fingernail, and realized it was just cheap gravel from a landscaping supply store. 40. A Florida man with a folding table, a pitcher, and a dream decided his humble lemonade stand was destined for bigger things. He didn't just sell lemonade, he was at the helm of a beverage innovation startup. Using this buzzword-laden description, he applied for a small business grant, likely writing a business plan full of words like synergy and disruption. The grant committee, intrigued by this new player in the beverage space, scheduled a site visit. The scam fell apart the moment they arrived and saw that the corporate headquarters was just a kid's lemonade stand, run by a 40-year-old man in his driveway. 41. When property tax season rolled around, a New Yorker looked at the inflatable kiddie pool in his backyard and saw not a cheap summer toy, but a sophisticated hydrotherapy spa. He argued that the pool was a medical necessity, vital for his physical and mental well-being. An inspector was dispatched to verify this claim, likely picturing a state-of-the-art therapeutic facility. Instead, he found the man lounging on a floaty with a beer in his hand, laughing with friends. It was clear the only therapy being practiced was the art of avoiding responsibility. 42. A woman in Arizona started an online business selling 1-acre plots of land on the moon. For just $29.99, customers received a handsome, official-looking deed, complete with celestial coordinates and a wax seal, granting them ownership of their own piece of lunar paradise. The business boomed, with thousands of buyers. The entire enterprise collapsed when one overly enthusiastic customer took their deed to a NASA outreach center and demanded to know what the zoning regulations were for building a vacation home on their new property. 43. Tapping into the self-help craze, a woman in Arkansas rebranded herself as a life coach and started selling tickets to expensive, motivational retreats at her lake house. She promised attendees a transformative journey of self-discovery. In reality, her teachings consisted of making people watch inspirational YouTube videos all day and then writing about their feelings in a journal. The scam imploded when one guest, who had paid thousands for the experience, demanded a full refund, complaining to authorities that the life-changing retreat was mostly just naps and sandwiches. 44. In a scheme that was equal parts bizarre and brilliant, a woman in Rhode Island registered her cat as a professional food critic. She created an Instagram account for the feline connoisseur and began requesting free samples from high-end pet food companies for review. The ruse worked surprisingly well, with boxes of gourmet cat food arriving daily. Her downfall came from her own success. A brand she had scammed loved the cat's image so much they hired it for a commercial. The ad prominently featured the cat enthusiastically eating the very food its critic persona had given a 0-star review to just a week earlier. 45. A couple in Nevada, staring at their tax forms, decided their karaoke machine was more than just a party starter. It was a music therapy device. They argued it was an essential tool for their emotional well-being and tried to claim it as a medical expense. An inspector dispatched to investigate this novel form of treatment arrived at their home to find them midway through a screeching off-key duet of Bon Jovi's "Livin' on a Prayer." It was immediately clear this was less about therapy and more about reliving their glory days, one power ballad at a time. 46. In a terrifying display of DIY dentistry, a man in Arizona decided he could become a dentist by watching YouTube tutorials. He bought a set of second-hand dental tools on eBay, rented a tiny back office, and started offering discount dental work to unsuspecting patients. His entire practice was built on confidence and a complete lack of medical training. The scam fell apart when a patient, in for a simple filling, felt something was off. They realized with horror that the dental cement he was using to fill their cavity was actually hot glue from a craft gun. 47. A couple in New York figured they could live a life of free entertainment by posing as professional balloon artists. Their method was simple. They'd contact event organizers, promise to create breathtaking, elaborate balloon sculptures, and in return, get free entry and food. The problem was, their actual skill level topped out at making a passable balloon dog. After being let into a fancy corporate gala, they produced a handful of sad-looking balloon animals, leaving the organizers furious and the couple permanently banned from the venue. 48. A man in Florida, tired of the monthly inconvenience of paying rent, devised a supernatural strategy to get out of his lease. He claimed his apartment was violently haunted and therefore uninhabitable. To build his case, he spent his nights recording spooky sounds, creaking doors, faint whispers, and rattling chains, and submitted the audio files to his landlord as evidence. The landlord, who had likely heard every excuse in the book, was utterly unconvinced and promptly began eviction proceedings for non-payment, proving that ghosts may be scary, but a late rent notice is scarier. 49. Pulled over for a DUI in South Carolina, a man tried to deploy a defense straight from a soap opera. He claimed he was suffering from a sudden, acute case of temporary memory loss and had absolutely no recollection of getting behind the wheel or driving his car. It was a bold, if medically dubious, claim. His case for amnesia was immediately dismissed when the arresting officer showed the dashcam footage. The video clearly depicted him, not just driving, but expertly weaving between 3 lanes of traffic like a professional stuntman. His memory may have been foggy, but his driving was unforgettably bad. And now, for the confession booth. We all have that one story. The student discount you used 5 years after graduating. The extra, for here, napkins you took for your house. What is the smallest, most brilliantly pathetic way you've ever cheated the system? The comments are open, and there is no judgment here. If you appreciate human ingenuity at its most questionable, the subscribe button is waiting.